The message came through at 6:14 on a cold Thursday morning, while I was sitting alone outside a servo in Parramatta, staring at a coffee I hadn't touched. "Don't come tomorrow, Dad. It'll just upset everyone." That was it. No call, no explanation. Just a text from my own son, banning me from my grandson's 7th birthday. I read it 3 times before my hands started shaking. 7 years old. Little Noah had spent the last month talking about the dinosaur cake we were building together. Every Sunday, he'd sit cross-legged on my lounge room floor in Newcastle, drawing ridiculous T-Rex designs while I pretended to take notes like some professional baker. The kid adored me. Or at least, I thought he did. I rang Ethan immediately. Straight to voicemail. Again voicemail. By the 4th attempt, my chest felt tight enough to crack ribs. I drove home in silence, rain dragging across the windscreen while old memories kept clawing their way back. Ethan at 10 years old, sitting beside me at a footy game. Ethan at 16, furious after his mother walked out. Ethan at 23, drunk in my kitchen, swearing he'd never become the kind of man who cuts family off. Funny how life works. By the time I reached my unit, there was another message. "Please don't make this harder than it already is." Harder for who? I sat at the kitchen table for nearly an hour, before finally calling my sister Claire. "You sound crook," she said immediately. "Ethan banned me from Noah's birthday." Silence. Not shock, not confusion, just silence. That was the first moment something felt seriously wrong. "Claire," I said slowly, "what's going on? You should probably leave it alone." The words hit harder than the text. "What the hell does that mean?" Another silence, then she sighed. "People are talking, Martin." I felt my stomach drop. Talking about what? But deep down, I already knew this wasn't about some argument. This wasn't about forgetting a present or showing up late to Christmas lunch. This was bigger. Claire lowered her voice. "Ethan thinks you stole money from Nan before she died." For a second, I genuinely thought I'd misheard her. "What? The inheritance?" I laughed. Not because it was funny, because the accusation was so absurd my brain rejected it. My mother had died 8 months earlier, in a hospice near Wollongong. Dementia took her slowly, cruelly. By the end, she barely recognized any of us. I handled most of her care, because Ethan lived in Brisbane, and Claire couldn't emotionally cope with seeing her deteriorate. After the funeral, there'd been some confusion over missing money from one of Mum's accounts, about 90 grand. But confusion wasn't theft. "Ethan thinks I stole from my own dying mother. He thinks you manipulated her near the end." I stood so fast the chair nearly hit the wall. "That's insane." "I know." "Then why didn't anyone bloody tell me?" Claire hesitated again, and that hesitation told me everything. Because she wasn't sure anymore either. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying every conversation from the past year, every strange pause, every cancelled visit. Every moment Ethan seemed distant but blamed work or stress. The suspicion hadn't appeared overnight. It had been growing quietly behind my back, while I kept showing up with birthday presents and barbecue invitations like some idiot who still believed family meant something. At 2:11 in the morning, I opened Facebook. I wish I hadn't. There was a photo from 2 weeks earlier at Bondi Beach. Ethan, his wife Beck, Noah, Claire, even cousins I hadn't seen in years. Family lunch, everyone smiling. I wasn't there, not because I was busy, because nobody invited me. My chest went numb. Then I noticed the comments. Glad the truth finally came out. Protecting the little ones matters. Some people don't deserve family. I stared at the screen, unable to breathe properly. Little ones? Protecting? What the hell were they implying? My phone rang, suddenly, making me jump. Unknown number. I answered immediately. A woman's voice spoke softly. "Mr. Holloway?" "Yes, my name's Sandra. I worked with your mother at the hospice." Something about her tone made my skin crawl. "I think you need to know," she whispered. "Your son's not telling you the real reason he cut you off." Then the line went dead. I called the number back 5 times. Nothing. By sunrise, I was sitting in my car outside the hospice in Wollongong, with bloodshot eyes and a headache pulsing behind my temples. The building looked smaller than I remembered. Grey brick walls, dead winter gardens. That stale hospital smell drifting through the automatic doors every time someone walked in. Sandra wasn't on reception. A young bloke with acne and tired eyes checked the staff list twice before shaking his head. She's casual. Night shift mostly? Can you call her? Not allowed to give personal details, mate. I leaned closer. She rang me last night. Said my son lied about why he cut me off. The kid instantly looked uncomfortable. That reaction alone tightened something inside me. Before he could answer, another voice came from behind. Martin? I turned. Julie Kemp, one of Mum's old nurses. She recognized me immediately, though her expression changed the second she saw my face. You all right? No, I said honestly. Apparently my entire family thinks I stole from my dying mother. Her smile disappeared. Who told you that? My son. Julie glanced toward reception, then quietly motioned me outside. Rain drizzled over the car park while we stood beneath a rusted awning. I shouldn't be involved in family matters, she said carefully. Then don't be involved. Just tell me if my mother ever accused me of stealing. She looked genuinely confused. No. Relief hit me for half a second. Then she added, but there was an incident. My stomach dropped again. A few weeks before she died, your mom got extremely distressed one night. She kept saying someone was pressuring her to sign papers. What papers? I never saw them. Who was pressuring her? Julie hesitated. She thought it was Ethan. The world around me suddenly felt distant. What? She was confused sometimes, Martin. You know that. We couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't. But I already knew my mother's dementia patterns. She forgot names, dates, meals. She didn't invent paranoia out of nowhere. Did Ethan visit her alone? A few times. My jaw tightened. When? Mostly near the end. The rain grew heavier. I could hear my heartbeat over the traffic, because suddenly everything felt backwards. The missing inheritance, the whispers, the sudden family exile. It wasn't random. Someone had built a story carefully enough that everybody believed it before I even knew accusations existed. And I was starting to think my own son built it. I drove straight to Ethan's house in Ryde. I didn't care if he told me not to come. Didn't care if Beck hated me. I needed answers. His Black Ranger sat in the driveway when I arrived. Kids' balloons were already tied along the fence for Noah's party tomorrow. I knocked hard enough to rattle the screen door. Beck opened it first the moment she saw me. Her entire face hardened. You need to leave. No, Martin. Get Ethan. Noah's voice echoed somewhere inside the house. Mom? Who is it? Then little footsteps came running. The second Noah appeared. His eyes lit up. Pop. Before anyone could stop him, he wrapped both arms around my waist. That nearly broke me. Because kids don't fake love. Kids know when someone's dangerous. And Noah looked at me like I was still his favorite person in the world. Beck immediately pulled him back. Inside. Now. But now. The fear in her voice stunned me. Not anger. Fear. Noah disappeared reluctantly while Ethan finally stepped into the hallway. He looked exhausted. Like he hadn't slept properly in weeks. For a moment neither of us spoke. Then I said quietly, "Did you tell people I'm dangerous around children?" His eyes shifted instantly. That tiny movement told me more than words could. "Who told you that?" he asked. "So it's true." I never said dangerous. My chest burned. "But you implied it. You don't understand what I found." "What you found?" Ethan rubbed a hand over his mouth, visibly shaking now. After Nan died, Beck hired someone to look into the missing money. I stared at him. A private investigator. He found complaints. What complaints? Ethan swallowed hard. From 22 years ago. Cold spread through my arms. 22 years ago. I already knew what was coming before he said it. A woman accused you of touching her son, at a camping park near Port Stevens. For a second, I couldn't even process the sentence. Then rage exploded through me so violently, my vision blurred. That never happened. She filed a report, and police cleared me. Ethan flinched, because that part he clearly hadn't known. I stepped closer. Who gave you that file? But Ethan suddenly looked terrified. Not of me, of something else. Then he whispered words that made my blood run ice cold. Dad, why didn't you tell me Mom visited that woman before she died? For a moment, neither of us moved. Cars hissed along the wet street outside, while Noah laughed somewhere deeper in the house, completely unaware that his family was tearing itself apart, 2 meters from where he stood. I have no idea what you're talking about, I said. Ethan stared at me like he wanted to believe that, but couldn't. Mom found her address 3 months before she died, he said quietly. She drove to Port Stevens and met her. My throat tightened. My ex-wife, Denise, had been dead for 4 years, breast cancer, fast and brutal. And now somehow she'd become part of this mess too. That's impossible, I said. I saw emails. From who? From the woman's daughter. I shook my head slowly. No, Denise never mentioned anything like that. Ethan looked exhausted, hollow. She kept it from everyone. The room felt smaller by the second. Who is this woman? I asked. Karen Doyle. The name meant nothing to me, or at least not immediately. Then something shifted in my memory. A camping park near Port Stevens, summer of 2004. Families drinking cheap beer near caravans. Kids riding bikes past the cabins. One screaming argument outside the communal bathrooms late at night. Karen, blonde hair, smoked constantly. Her son was maybe 8 years old. And suddenly I remembered the accusation. Not clearly, but enough. Jesus Christ. She accused 3 men that summer, I said. Not just me. Ethan folded his arms. Police reports only mention you. Because I was the idiot who stayed behind to cooperate. I could feel my pulse hammering now. The memory was coming back in pieces I hadn't touched in decades. Karen's son went missing for nearly an hour one afternoon. Total panic across the park. Then the kid turned up near the boat ramp, claiming a man grabbed him. Karen pointed at me immediately because I'd helped search the bush tracks. Police questioned me for hours. Then nothing happened. No charges. No arrest. Because it was rubbish. I thought it disappeared after they cleared me, I muttered. Ethan's expression darkened. You never told Mom. Because there was nothing to tell. You hid it. I protected my family from gossip. The second the words left my mouth, I knew they sounded wrong. Because hidden truths always sound guilty once dragged into daylight. Beck appeared again near the hallway, listening silently now. Her face looked pale. How much money was missing exactly? I suddenly asked. Ethan frowned. What? Nan's inheritance. 92,000. I stared at him. Who told you that amount? The investigator. That's not possible. Why? Because the account only had 61,000 left when your grandmother died. The color drained from Ethan's face. For the first time since I arrived, uncertainty cracked through him properly. What? I handled the banking, remember? I said. The rest went toward hospice care and debt repayments months earlier. Beck looked sharply at Ethan. You told me 92. That's what the report said. Then your investigator lied. Silence swallowed the hallway. I watched the doubt spreading between them, tiny, but growing. Then Ethan said something that nearly stopped my heart. The investigator also said you withdrew cash the same week Nan changed her will. I froze, because that part was true. 20 grand, cash, 1 week before Mom died. Money I never explained to anyone, not even Denise before she passed. My silence must have betrayed me, because Ethan's face instantly hardened again. There it is, he whispered. No, what was the cash for? I looked away, and that was my mistake. Because the second I hesitated, Beck grabbed Noah from the hallway again like she suddenly feared leaving him alone near me. Answer him, Ethan snapped. But I couldn't. Not immediately, because the truth sounded insane. My mother begged me not to tell anyone before she died. She made me promise, and promises to dying parents don't disappear just because life gets messy later. Dad. Ethan's voice cracked now. What the hell did you do? I looked at my son properly then, really looked at him. The same kid I taught to drive near Stockton Dunes. The same boy who cried in my arms after his first heartbreak. The same young man who once told me I was the only person he fully trusted. And now he looked at me like I might be a monster. So I finally said it. The money wasn't for me. Then where'd it go? I swallowed slowly. To someone your mother was secretly paying for years. The entire room went dead quiet. Even Noah stopped talking in the other room somehow. Ethan stared at me. What are you talking about? I could barely force the words out. Before your mom died, she confessed something about your grandfather. Then somebody knocked on the front door. 3 sharp knocks. We all turned instinctively. Ethan opened it halfway, and the second I saw the woman standing outside, every nerve in my body locked solid. Karen Doyle, older now, gray streaks in her hair, but unmistakably her. She looked straight at me with trembling eyes, then said the one sentence I never thought I'd hear in my lifetime. I'm ready to tell your son what really happened that summer. Nobody spoke. Rain hammered the driveway, while Karen Doyle stood at the front door, like a ghost, dragged out of 20 years of buried lies. Ethan looked between us, completely lost. You know her? Karen answered before I could. Unfortunately, yes. Her voice sounded tired, not angry, not triumphant, just exhausted in a way that made my skin crawl. Beck stepped back instinctively, still holding Noah protectively behind her legs. Maybe this isn't the place, she muttered. No, Karen said softly. It needs to happen now. She walked inside slowly, eyes fixed on me the entire time. I hadn't seen her since 2004. Not after the police interviews, not after the caravan park emptied, not after her accusations quietly destroyed pieces of my life without ever reaching court. Ethan shut the door. What's going on? He demanded. Karen took a shaky breath. I lied about your father. The room went silent. I watched Ethan's face freeze completely. What? I lied, she repeated. Martin never touched my son. Beck actually whispered, Jesus Christ. Ethan stared at her like his brain couldn't process the words. But the police report. I made the statement because my son disappeared for nearly an hour and I panicked. Her eyes filled with tears. Then I realized who he'd really been with. My stomach twisted, because suddenly I knew exactly where this was heading. Karen looked at me. You remember your father being there that weekend? I nodded once. Barely. My father died in 2011. Hard man. Quiet. Drank too much. The kind of bloke who scared rooms without raising his voice. Mom hated him by the end. Now I finally understood why. Karen continued carefully. My son eventually admitted your dad took him fishing near the boat ramp. Nothing happened physically, but he said your father frightened him. Ethan frowned. Frightened him how? Karen looked down. He exposed himself. The words landed like a shotgun blast. Beck covered her mouth instantly. I felt physically sick, because deep inside, pieces of my childhood suddenly started connecting in ways I'd spent decades avoiding. Moments, looks, warnings from Mom that never fully made sense. Karen wiped her eyes. I accused Martin because I couldn't handle admitting I let my child near the real man responsible. Ethan turned toward me slowly. You knew? No, I said immediately. And it was true, at least consciously. But memory is a strange thing. Sometimes the truth lives underneath your life without you realizing it. Karen continued. Your mother visited me before she died because she discovered letters. My chest tightened. What letters? Ethan asked. Karen looked at him sadly. From other families. The room tilted around me. Other families, plural. She found them hidden in your grandfather's shed after he died. Karen whispered. Parents complaining about inappropriate behavior around children during the 80s and 90s. Ethan stepped backwards like he'd been punched. No, she paid me money to stay quiet. I closed my eyes. $20,000. Not blackmail, guilt. My mother spent years silently trying to bury my father's sins while protecting the family name. And when dementia started stripping away her mind, the secrets finally leaked out in broken fragments. She thought Martin might inherit it. Tendencies, Karen admitted carefully. That one hurt more than everything else combined. Even my own mother feared me in the end. I never touched anybody, I said quietly. Karen nodded immediately. I know, but you still let them destroy my life. Tears rolled down her face. I was ashamed. Ethan suddenly looked violently ill. He turned toward the kitchen sink, gripping the counter while breathing hard. Dad. I didn't answer. Couldn't. Because the damage was already done, the whispers, the social media comments, the looks from relatives, my own son banning me from his child's birthday, because he thought there might be truth hidden somewhere inside old accusations. And honestly, part of him probably still wondered. That's the ugliest thing about suspicion. Once it enters a family, it never leaves completely. Noah wandered innocently back into the hallway, holding a toy dinosaur. Why's everyone sad? He asked. Nobody answered. Then Karen quietly reached into her handbag. There's one more thing. She pulled out a thin manila envelope, old, folded repeatedly. I almost burned these years ago. She handed it directly to Ethan. He opened it carefully while the rest of us watched. His face drained of color within seconds. What is it? Beck whispered. Ethan looked at me with pure horror. Inside the envelope was a photograph, old camping grounds, summer 2004, and standing near the boat ramp beside Karen's son was my father. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the teenage boy standing beside him, me, and across the back of the photo, written in my mother's handwriting, were 6 devastating words. Martin saw everything and told nobody. I couldn't breathe. The photo shook in Ethan's hands, while every sound inside the house disappeared into this horrible, dead silence. Dad, he whispered. But I wasn't looking at him. I was staring at Mom's handwriting. Martin saw everything and told nobody. And the worst part was, she was right. Not entirely, but enough. Fragments of memory kept smashing back into me now. My father sitting with Karen's son near the water. The boy crying afterward. Dad grabbing my shoulder so hard it hurt when I asked what happened. Mind your bloody business. I was 19, old enough to know something felt wrong, too weak to challenge him. Back then, men like my father ruled families through fear. Nobody questioned them. Nobody exposed them. You swallowed discomfort and kept moving because that's what everyone did. And deep down, Mom must have realized I remembered more than I admitted. That's why she never fully trusted me after Dad died. Not because she thought I was like him, because I protected him. Ethan slowly lowered the photo. You knew something happened. His voice sounded broken. I nodded once. The truth tasted rotten coming out. I didn't know exactly what, but I knew your grandfather scared kids sometimes. I saw things over the years that didn't sit right. Jesus Christ, Beck whispered. I was scared of him. Nobody interrupted. I thought if I ignored it long enough, it'd stay buried. Karen wiped her face quietly. That's what all of us did. Noah stood confused beside the hallway, clutching his dinosaur tighter now. The poor kid could feel the tension without understanding it. And suddenly I hated myself more than I ever had in my entire life. Not because I hurt a child. I never did. But because somewhere in another lifetime, I might have stopped someone who did. Ethan looked furious now, hurt beyond words. You let me believe you were innocent. I am innocent. But you hid this. Yes, the honesty finally cracked something open between us. No more lies. No more carefully edited family history. Just ugly truth sitting naked in the middle of the room. I buried it because I wanted a normal life, I admitted. I wanted you to have a grandfather you could respect even after he died. I wanted our family to stay whole. And instead, Ethan snapped. I looked around the room, at Beck's fear, at Karen's shame, at Noah's confusion, at my son looking at me like a stranger. And instead I poisoned everything. Nobody spoke for a while. Rain kept tapping softly against the windows. Then Noah walked over to me carefully. Pop, my throat tightened instantly. Yeah, mate, did you do bad things? That question hurt more than any accusation. I crouched slowly until we were eye level. No, I said honestly, but I should been braver a long time ago. He seemed to think about that. Then he hugged me again. Just like before. Still pure. Children don't care about complicated adult guilt. They only feel love or fear. And Noah wasn't afraid of me. Ethan watched silently while tears built in his eyes for the first time since I arrived. I thought I was protecting him, he said quietly. I know. I really thought. I know. His voice cracked completely. I'm sorry, Dad. 20 years of buried poison suddenly collapsed inside that sentence. I pulled him into my arms before either of us could rethink it. And for a few seconds, he felt like my little boy again, instead of a grown man carrying inherited fear he never deserved. Behind us, Karen quietly moved toward the door. I stopped her. You should have told the truth years ago. I know, she whispered. Then she left. Just like that. Gone into the rain. By evening, the storm finally cleared over Sydney. The clouds broke apart into pale orange light, while Noah showed me the dinosaur cake design one more time at the kitchen table. Beck even made me tea. Awkward. Careful. But human. Some damage never disappears completely. Families don't magically heal because truth finally arrives. Certain suspicions leave scars forever, but lies leave worse ones. Before I drove home that night, Ethan walked me to the driveway. There's something else, he said quietly. My stomach tightened. What? The investigator. What about him? Ethan looked disturbed again. I tried calling him after you told me the inheritance numbers didn't match. And? He doesn't exist. Cold spread through me. What do you mean he doesn't exist? The company's fake. The reports were fake. Everything. I stared at him. Then who sent them? Ethan swallowed hard. I checked the email metadata this afternoon. The street suddenly felt very still. And? He looked me dead in the eyes. They came from Mom's old email account. My blood turned ice cold because Denise had been dead for 4 years. And somewhere far down the dark, empty street behind us, a car engine quietly started.